Hello and welcome, I'm Ellie Richardson and you're watching World of Sports on NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the top sports stories of the week. India triumphed in the biggest match of the ongoing T20 World Cup against arch rivals Pakistan, winning by 61 runs in Colombo. Nottingham Forest have appointed former Wolves boss Vitor Pereira on an 18-month deal. The 57-year-old becomes the club's fourth manager of the campaign. The Portuguese takes over at the City ground from Sean Dyche, who was sacked on Thursday. Anthony Kim completed a remarkable return to golf with a victory at the Live event in Adelaide, his first tournament win after a 12-year absence during which he battled drug and alcohol addiction. Magnus Carlsen overcame a spirited challenge from Fabio Caruana to claim the title of the first FIDE Freestyle World Champion. Tyler Redrick took the checkered flag at the annual Daytona 500 race, driving for Michael Jordan's 2311 racing team. And for your top story, we start with some cricket action over at the Men's T20 World Cup. India triumphed over Pakistan by 61 runs in their highly anticipated clash in Colombo, securing their place in the Super 8. Despite ongoing political tensions and doubts about whether the match would even take place, India proved too strong. The victory added to their recent dominance over Pakistan in completed matches. Ishan Kishani's explosive 77 from 40 balls provided a solid foundation for India, setting a challenging target of 176. Despite Pakistan's spinners, including Saim Ayub, trying to fight back, the total always seemed daunting early breakthrough from Hardik Pandya and Jasprit Bumrah, who claimed key wickets in the first 2 overs of Pakistan's chase, all but sealed the game for India. Pakistan's chase faltered early on as they found themselves at 34-4, with Hardik sending Shehzad Khanum back for a duck and Bumrah claiming 2 crucial wickets. Usman Khan's militant 44 was the highlight of Pakistan's innings, but they were dismissed for just 114 in 18 overs. Despite a militant fight back, Pakistan's decision to bowl first in Colombo seemed to backfire. India capitalised on the challenging conditions with a strong start. Pakistan's bowlers tried to apply pressure, but their late changes in strategy, including holding back Usman Tariq, proved costly. The result leaves Pakistan with a must-win game against Namibia to qualify for the Super 8, as their defeat to India pushed them to third in Group A. India, on the other hand, remain on track to defend their T20 World Cup title, building momentum as they head into the next phase of the tournament. We are now being joined by Rithik Dhanani, who's a sports commentator and presenter joining us from New Delhi. Thank you for joining us here today. Despite the early dismissal of Abhishek Sharma, Ishan Kishani's explosive batting changed the course of the match. What set him apart from the other batsmen who struggled?
Yes, thank you for having me. I think, yes, Ishan was clearly the difference between both the sides. But yes, I think the major difference I'll say is the mindset with which he is playing. I think in last few months, he has batted the best throughout his career. So I think, yes, I think the major difference was the mindset. And I think more importantly, if you look at the second over, when Shaheen Shah Afridi walked in, that first ball was very decisive. He hit him for a 6 towards mid-wicket. It's very easy to say that, but the way he delivered it from there on, the pressure shifted back to Pakistan, and he never allowed them to come back. So I think, yes, just to counter attack, that's what Gautam Gambhir and the entire ideology of this Indian team has been, to counter attack and to kill the game in the first 6 overs. So that's what something he did really well. And I think in addition to that, because he batted in the power play, so the ball was new, it was not dripping that much as it was in the last 5 overs of the innings. And more importantly, because there are only two fielders outside in the first 6 overs, so there are bigger areas to target. So I think Ishan got the foundation really well and then carried on nicely for the team.
Despite the pitch favouring spinners, Jasprit Bumrah and Hardik Pandya dominated Pakistan's batting. What made India's fast bowlers so effective on a spinning track, while Pakistan's pacers like Shaheen struggled?
I think if you look at the entire weather conditions, what were yesterday, I think it was more or less on the overcast side. It was again predicted monsoon. So I think whenever that's the case, even Jasprit Bumrah post match in an interview mentioned that there was a lot of assistance for the new ball in the surface. So I think whenever there is slight assistance, especially in overcast conditions, that's enough for bowlers like Jasprit Bumrah and Hardik Pandya. And I think the bigger reason why Pakistan collapsed was the kind of pressure they were batting in. Of course, 175 on this sort of a surface is almost impossible for a lineup like that to chase. So I think, of course, the skill set of Jasprit Bumrah and Hardik Pandya with the assist in the conditions, and in addition to that, the kind of pressure they were batting in. Even if you look at the dismissals, how Farhan got out, how their captain Salman got out, just clearly tells us it was more pressure than the bowling that did the damage for them.
And did Pakistan's decision to bowl first impact their performance in the match against India?
I think yes, the result would have still been the same, to be honest. But yes, whenever you are playing a high pressure match like India-Pakistan in the T20 World Cup where everything is on the line, you always prefer to bat first. But I think yes, even if Pakistan would have batted first, I think the result would have still been the same. Probably the margin would have been lesser, but I think yes, wouldn't have made a big difference if even Pakistan would have batted first.
Thank you so much, Rithik, for joining us here today on our sports channel on NewsX World. Turning our attention now to the snowy slopes of Milan, where the 2026 Winter Olympics are underway in full swing. Norway continues to lead the medal table with a strong showing anchored by cross-country dominance, including a record ninth for Johannes Hoesflot after anchoring the men's relay. Italy is having its best Winter Games ever, surpassing its previous total of 20 medals with 22 overall and 8 golds, fueled by performances across alpine skiing, biathlon, skeleton and snowboarding cross. Great Britain and other nations have also made history with breakthrough golds in skeleton and snowboard crossed mixed team. The biggest headline from the Games is from the ice hockey court. Team USA men's hockey team may have found a short-term formula to survive the rough patches of these Olympics. When all else fails, add Brady Ottawa. Senators captain Brady took through hands in the first period against Denmark, scored the equaliser in the second and injected life into a flat American side. Even so, the game was far closer than it should have been. The United States trailed at the halfway point against a Danish team with just 5 NHL players. A late offensive surge sealed the win, but it did little to quiet concerns about chemistry and consistency. Meanwhile, in figure skating, the Olympics have witnessed the greatest upset possibly of all time. For nearly 2 years, men's figure skating has felt inevitably with the ILIA Millennium at the centre of it. But on Olympic ice near Milan, the sense of certainty collapsed. The overwhelming favourites saw the gold medal slip away after an error-filled free skate that will go down as one of the biggest upsets in Olympic history. Kazakhstan's Mikhail Shidov capitalised, roaring from 5th to 1st with a season best 291.58. Japan's Yuma Kaigi took silver with Shun Sato claiming bronze on a night when even elite technicians unravelled. Millennium, who entered with a 5-point lead and the most difficult programme ever attempted at the Olympics, missed a quad axel, fell on another quad and finished 8th. His 2-year unbeaten streak shattered. "I blew it," he said afterwards, a stark reminder that Olympic pressure can dissolve even generational dominance. Pre-season testing in Bahrain has brought a fresh wave of anticipation for the 2026 Formula One season. The biggest technical overhaul in the sport's history is underway, with new engines, new chassis, and a shift to carbon-neutral sustainable fuel. These changes have forced teams to adapt to an entirely new way of racing, the energy management now playing a central role in performance. Max Verstappen, however, has been vocal in his criticism of the new regulations, describing the 2026 cars as Formula E on steroids. The reigning world champion expressed frustration with the energy management demands on the new hybrid engines, saying that they need to manage energy use rather than simply driving out makes the experience feel less like Formula One. Verstappen noted that the new regulations, though equalising performance, have stripped away the pure driving thrill that he enjoys. On the other hand, Lando Norris has embraced the challenge. The British driver has pointed out that while driving the new cars requires a different approach, it still is a fun challenge that pushes him to adapt and think differently on track. Norris believes that the changes are just the part of the evolution of Formula One, and he's enjoying the opportunity to master a new way of racing. As for the competitive picture, Red Bull and Mercedes are emerging as the teams to beat. Red Bull's new engine, developed alongside Ford, has shown impressive energy deployment during testing. Verstappen's race simulations consistently showed a time advantage over his competitors, particularly on the straights. Despite Verstappen's concerns about the new driving dynamics, Red Bull's technical prowess is clear, and the team remains confident about their performance this season. Mercedes, however, is under scrutiny due to claims that they may be exploiting a loophole in the engine compression ratio rules. There are accusations that Mercedes is running its engine at a higher compression ratio than regulations permit when operating at hot temperatures, giving them a potential performance edge. While Mercedes has not confirmed these claims, the FIA is set to address the issue soon, with a final ruling expected before the season opener in Melbourne. With all eyes on Melbourne Grand Prix, the first real test of 2026 season will provide crucial insights into how these new regulations affect team performance. We are now being joined by Charanjot Singh Kohli, who is a senior F1 writer, joining us from New Delhi. Thank you so much for joining us here today on NewsX World. Is Max Verstappen's criticism shared across the paddock, or is he an outlier among top drivers?
So Max Verstappen, essentially, it's not really a case of Max not being happy with the new regulations that we have. It's essentially a case of drivers either being in different stages of their careers. Now, on one side we have Lando Norris, George Russell, Charles Leclerc, the drivers that are the new breed and who have not tasted success in the sport yet. So they are more malleable when it comes to adapting to different kind of cars. On the other hand, you have drivers like Lewis Hamilton, a 7-time world champion, Fernando Alonso, a 2-time world champion, and Max Verstappen, a 4-time world champion. These drivers they've been at the top of the mountain. So when it comes to Formula One, they not only are part of it for just for the competition, but also because this is a sport they grew up watching and being passionate about. The direction that is taken right now, it's a bit different. The sport has moved on from cars being more limited when it came to the aerodynamic side of things, where drivers didn't really need to focus on the power unit. Now we have an entirely different formula where power management is the key focus. So essentially, the situation that we have here is there are two set of drivers. Ones who are probably at the later stages of their careers, who have achieved a lot. They are willing to speak out, and then you have the other side who are more malleable. But yeah, if we are looking at a consensus, ideally drivers are not really fan of these cars, but they're willing to adapt. And at the end of the day, that's Formula One.
How much of race performance in 2026 will come down to energy management rather than outright race?
It will play a major role because at least for now, in the initial stages, the regulations they will be power unit dependent. So whichever power unit supplier is able to optimize that particular area, that particular team and the power unit manufacturer, ultimately they are going to have an edge over the rest of the field. So even in so we've had 3 days of preseason test in Bahrain, and there was 3 days of running in Barcelona as well, the shakedowns. Teams have not even focused on optimizing their cars in terms of their setups and other suspension and other areas. The focus has essentially been on learning how they will manage power throughout a lap, and that essentially shows how much of an emphasis is on specific areas, right? So ultimately, if we are looking at the key to success in the 2026 F1 regulations, it's going to come down to how teams and especially specific cars are able to manage the power across a lap and then across the race stint.
And do Red Bull's early gains in energy deployment suggest they've cracked the new regulations faster than their rivals?
So when we are talking about Red Bull, essentially, first of all, the job that they've done, it's remarkable. Being this is the first time that the Red Bull powertrain is building a power unit. They don't really have a motorsport legacy in terms of building power units or being an automotive, something that Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren, as to a large extent, Audi and Honda have. The fact that for now, the fact that they are able to build a power unit on first go, which is competitive, I think that alone is remarkable. But the bigger thing is where these teams and where these power units ultimately fall in the pecking order. It's too early to say because every team will be trying to hold some they will not be trying to reveal all their cards, at least for now. They're going to give at least until the final preseason test and until the first qualifying in Australia, things are still going to be under wraps to a large extent.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us here today on World of Sports. Thank you. We're now going to shift our focus to football action in the FA Cup, where Arsenal stormed into the fifth round with a ruthless first half display, hammering Wigan Athletic 4-0 at the Emirates Stadium. The Gunners scored 4 times inside the opening 17 minutes, with Noni Madueke, Gabriel Martinelli and Gabriel Jesus all on target before a defensive error resulted in an own goal. The comprehensive win keeps Arsenal's hope of a rare quadruple firmly alive. At Elland Road, Leeds United were taken the distance by Birmingham City. After a 1-1 draw, though extra time, Patrick Roberts struck late for the visitors to cancel out Lucas Nemes's opener, before Leeds held their nerve in a 4-2 penalty shootout sealed by Sean Longstaff. In the tough, muddy conditions at Blundell Park, Premier League strugglers Wolverhampton Wanderers avoided an upset by beating Grimsby Town 1-0, with Santiago Bueno netting the decisive second half goal. Sunderland also progressed after a tense 1-0 win away to Oxford United. Habib Diarra converted a first half penalty following a contentious decision, with no VAR available to review the incident. Rounding off the action, Fulham came from behind to see off Stoke City 2-1. Bajan Ho gave Stoke the lead before Kevin levelled and Harrison Reed grabbed the late winner to send Fulham through. We're now being joined by Praduma Temboka. Thank you for joining us here today on NewsX World for our World of Sport. Now, people talk about the FA Cup and they talk about the magic of the FA Cup and what it does for teams in lower leagues going against the Premier League teams, for example. Mansfield won 2-1 on Saturday with a comeback win over Burnley. Can you tell us about just the magic of the FA Cup? How damaging is this kind of upset for a Premier League side's confidence? They knocked out Crystal Palace and now they've knocked out Burnley.
Well, firstly, thank you so much for having me here. And the magic of FA Cup, I mean, being the oldest domestic, competition in the world, it is surreal to see stories where top league opposition gets knocked out by non-league teams or people coming in from non-professional sporting backgrounds as such. So it's really important to note that anybody can defeat anyone, and FA Cup is that level playing field where the game is the real winner. So stories like Crystal Palace losing out to a non-league opposition, and in fact, it goes on way beyond in the yesteryears as well. Recently, Arsenal had also played against a non-league opposition when they eventually beat Antonio Conte's Chelsea in the FA Cup final at Wembley. So stories like these do show that the FA Cup or this competition in specific gives you a chance to shine and outshine at the same time.
And Wolves struggled on a muddy pitch at Grimsby. Does this result mask any deeper issues for them in the league, as we know they are struggling at the bottom of the table?
Again, the magic of FA Cup. Where else would you see muddy fields or non-polished grass or uncut dugout fields in any competition that is on such a grand scale in the world? But yes, Wolves having to struggle through that sole 60th minute goal from Bueno. Just goes to show that the momentum, even if they gain momentum, they'll look as if they're losing it very quickly. So if they continue to just hop on to smaller segments in the game, as we call it in sports psychology, focusing on the controllable moments, I guess Wolves should be able to see success over the next few games. I'm not saying by results, but at least from the game they play.
Thank you so much for joining us here today on World of Sport. Thank you. Norway's Magnus Carlsen has added another landmark title to his legendary career, becoming the first official FIDE freestyle chess world champion. Carlsen clinched the title in Wessenhaus in Germany with a cautious draw in the fourth and final game, sealing a 2.5 to 1.5 match win over American Grandmaster Fabiano Caruana. The decisive moment came in Game 3, where Carlsen engineered a remarkable comeback from a seemingly lost position, swinging the match firmly in this behaviour. Needing only a draw in the final game, the world number one held firm in an equal endgame as Caruana failed to capitalise on late chances. This victory marks Carlsen's 21st world title across the formats and carries added significance after he previously missed out on the FIDE Fischer Random Crown. The event also represents a new era as FIDE partnered with private organisers to officially recognise freestyle chess. In the bronze medal match, Nordbrick Abudostov defeated German's Vincent Kiemer, while the lower placings saw Hans Niemann beat India's Asian R. Dingas. Levron Aromi claimed 7th place in an Amaduk tiebreak. There's no outro. That's all we have time for this episode of World of Sport. Keep watching NewsX World for more updates.